Hello, this is Jess Hay from Creative Cards to You. Thank you for joining me today. I am starting a new series called Mixed Media Monday, where I showcase a mixed media card I create. Today I am going to show you how I tried an experiment using lunar paste, craft plastic, and an embossing folder to get this result. I start off by putting a few drops of Savage Patina Distressed Oxide Reinker on a watercolor cardstock base. I spray it with water and then smush the card on it. I make a few card bases so as not to waste the ink. I dried the panel with a heat gun in between ink layers. Next, I put brushed corduroy distressed oxide ink on the mixed media mat and sprayed it with water, and then did more ink smushing. I sprayed the card with water and used a paintbrush to move the ink around, just in a random pattern. Finally, I used Scattered Straw Distressed Oxide ink and did the same thing, just trying to fill in the white spaces on my card base. At this point, I don't have a big plan. I'm just kind of seeing where the ink lands and where it will take me. Now I know you can use lunar paste with embossing folders, but the thought of trying to get the lunar paste out of all the nooks and crannies didn't really excite me. So I had an idea. I wondered what would happen if I used this graphite plastic that I use for alcohol ink panels, run it through an embossing folder, and try putting the lunar paste on that. I was curious to see if it would peel off. So I'm using some Psych lunar paste and Cross My Heart solar paste, and just used the spatula to spread it over the embossed plastic. I put it on the front of most of the embossing panels. For the last one, I decided to try something different and put it on the back of the panel, which is the debossed side. I set them aside to dry. Stick around to see the results. At this point, I realized I forgot to film cutting this newspaper rub-on background from Hero Art's collage backgrounds and putting it on both alternating corners of the card. I wanted to do that for some symmetry. I thought I was done, as this was the first time I've done it, but I discovered later on I wasn't. I die cut this rectangle frame from Lou Collins Textured Layered Frames. After this, I decided to use some Distress Oxide Hickory Smoke to make the edges look more weathered. And I found out that there's a plastic film on top that I needed to take off. This was my beginner's learning curve here. So I just used my fingernail to make sure to rub it all around on the newspaper background to make sure it transferred. I finished distressing the edges with that hickory smoke background. I used the same color to color the frame and cleaned up my work surface. Next, I used stamps from Tim Holtz Crackle and Grime Stamp and Stencil set. I used the Hickory Smoke and VersaFine Black Onyx ink to do second generation stamping, where I stamp it off either on a piece of paper or the plastic mat that I have in the background, and then stamped a less saturated version of it onto the card. I rolled the stamp so as not to get a super defined image, just putting it in random places on the card. And here is the result. Now that the lunar and solar paste is dry, I used my 7-in-1 tool from Spellbinders to loosen the paste and peel it off. As you can see, it is not going as expected. Small world problem, I know. I wanted to show you the mistakes and the successes on this channel so that when things don't go according to plan, you know that it happens to everyone. Now on the last one, I finally have some success. This is the one where I put the lunar paste on the debossed side, or the indented side. I decided to use this in the middle of the card to add a textured layer. I also used Altenew Obsidian ink to darken the frame and then rubbed some Solar Ink Golden Hour to have it have a bit of shine. I then decided the right corner of the panel needed a little something and looked through these eucalyptus rub-ons from 49th and Market. I cut out a sprig of dark gray flowers and used my fingers to rub it onto the paper, remembering to take the top plastic layer off this time. I adhered a black layer to the background using Bearly Arts glue and then wanted to add some foam for dimension. I cut rectangles out of this yellow foam and used a black Sharpie to make the edges look less yellow and glued that onto the watercolor panel. I then adhered it to the black panel with the Bearly Arts liquid glue. I put together this butterfly from the Lou Collins Textured Collection out of an alcohol inked background I had made a few weeks ago. I put foam strips on the back of this layered frame, and I found if you take the release paper off, it makes it easier to turn the corner with the strips. Now another element that I had die cut from that alcohol inked panel are these kind of leafy vine things from the Lou Collins Textures collection. I wanted part of them to be on the back of the frame, so I kind of arranged them where I wanted to before adhering the rectangle frame to the panel. I then put glue on the leaves that I wanted to glue down to the panel. One of the leaves is kind of sticking up, but I kind of like the little bit of interest that that gives. I finished off the butterfly by gluing these 2 dots onto the openings. I cut these sentiment strips out from Lou Collins' Sentiments for All set, and I adhered them to the back of the panel with foam strips on either side of the rectangle frame. I added some foam tape to the back of the butterfly where it was not going to stick on the rectangle frame. And there you have it, my first card in the series done. I would love to know in the comments below what you think of that technique for the lunar paste, as well as what your favorite part of the card was. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.